It gives me a lot of pleasure, and we're fortunate to have with us Tejpreet Chopra, goes by the name TP, who's, as you hear in his bio shortly, a highly accomplished individual. But the thing that strikes me most about him is how down to earth and humble he is. I'm privileged to call him a friend, and he has obliged us today despite his very, very busy schedule to be here with us. Tejpreet Chopra is the founder and president of Bharat Light and Power, which is a clean power generation company, and is planning to have power generation through all kinds of renewable sources, through some innovative technologies and financing models. Before this, for 18 years, he's been a global executive, CEO and president, 14 of which have been at GE, where he's had some very interesting experiences which I'll share with you. He served as president and CEO of GE Commercial Finance, Aviation, GE Capital Aviation Services, the leasing arm of GE, and has done a lot of very interesting things. He is a member of the National Council of CII. He is the World Economic Forum's Young Global Leader, and was also declared by Business Today in 2008 as one of India's hottest young executives. And they were not referring just to his work. He's a graduate of Sense Defense, and where he got a BA Honours in Economics and an MA degree from Cornell. So with that introduction, let's welcome Tejpreet.
Can everybody hear me, or should I take the mic?
Audible. Mic audible.
Can everybody hear me at the back? It's not
Yes.
Yep. Can you hear me at the back?
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, everyone, for the kind introduction. I appreciate you inviting me out here. I was just telling one a few minutes ago that I've got a very ulterior motive to come out here and speak to you today, because hopefully one day I'll have the opportunity to actually work with some of you in my organization. So that's the reason I'm actually out here. So it's really a recruiting session out here, not really an opportunity to come and speak. But seriously, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and inviting me out here. I don't have any prepared comments. What I just thought I'd come and share with you is my story. And if y'all can learn or take away a few learnings that I've had from my story, I think I would have done what I came in to do. And I'll just share with you what I've learned along the way, and then we'll open it up to any questions that you have. Thank you, thanks very much.
Yeah, this visual is right into your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. It's coming right into my eyes. So maybe I'll just come out here itself. So I'll tell you where I start the story. So I, like all of you, came out of grad school. I went to college out here, and then I went abroad for a couple of years, and then finally went to Cornell, like one said. I was coming out of college. I didn't know where I was going to go. Like I don't know how many of you at least know where you're going because you're in the school that's teaching you about energy, etc. But I had no clue. I was coming out of college, and there are a lot of people who come to campus to recruit. So like all the guys who come out of business school in the US, right, there are two choices: go Wall Street or you go to consulting, right? So I did all the usual interviews about going to consulting or going to Wall Street. And suddenly this guy comes to me and he says, listen, we ever considered joining GE? And I said, yeah, sure. And I went for an interview, and he said, it's a really cool place to work. And I said, wow, that's good. Right? It's a good way to make a decision which company to join. So it was a small little division within the big world of GE Capital. And I know, a lot of you know about GE? Yes. Great. So it's a little company, right? With just 300,000 people. But I started a small group called GE Capital. And within GE Capital also, there are, in the old days, there were 26 bubbles, the way it was organizationally designed. Though they've cut it up and sliced it up, and now there are two big bubbles, but in those days there were 26 bubbles. And one of the smaller bubbles in that company was a company called GE Capital Aviation Services. And in the industry we call ourselves GCAS. And so this guy comes to interview me and he says, listen, it's a small little business and we give you the opportunity to travel the world, right? So it sounds just like, airline ads, we give you an option to travel the world. So I thought, wow, that's cool, right? Kind of a business school, don't know what to do. So I tried this little business called aviation services. We were about 200 people, right? So in the big world of GE, this business only has about 200 people. And basically, it's the aviation financing and leasing arm of this big world of GE. And when I tried the little business, we had about 8 billion in assets, and the business produced about 100 million net income. The fun part about that business was, in about 7-8 years, we grew that business to about 45 billion in assets, producing 1.2 billion net income with the same 200 people, right? And it was a fantastic place to work because, I'd get up in the morning and I'd fly to any part of the world, and we'd be on a plane 10 months of the year, in a plane, traveling to different parts of the world. It was all about winning, right? Losing was not an option. If it meant we couldn't sleep for 4 nights a week, we wouldn't sleep for 4 nights a week, but losing was not an option, right? And we'd all die to win, right? And what I learned from that business was that if you want to be successful in whatever you do, unless you've got a crazy, crazy desire and a crazy passion to win, you guys are not going to win, right? And the second thing I learned in that experience, right, was the fact that it's all about teamwork. It was an incredible time, and I'll give you a quick story. Do you all know Indigo Airlines?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Indigo Airlines was just about starting up, and I met a lot of these airlines out here in India, and they virtually done the deal with a competitor of ours. And I met the promoter of Indigo the first time, and he was buying a lot of planes. The first time he ordered about 100 planes. And at that time he had decided whether he's going to go with GE engines or competitors' engines. But unfortunately he made the wrong decision. He went to the competitors' engines. So we guys, with the money guys, were told very clearly to back off and not give him the money. Right, so I remember going up to the guy and I said, listen, I want a financial plane. He says, TP, it's too late because the first plane's delivering in 2 weeks' time. So there's just not enough time, and I can't be in a situation right now where the plane's delivering and I don't have anybody to finance the plane. And I said, give me a chance. I said, just give me a chance to finance the first 10 planes. Right, so here I am, sticking my neck out, trying to finance $500 million worth of assets in 2 weeks to a guy who has never even started an airline. But again, that's what teamwork is all about, because I had one guy in Ireland, one guy in the US, and all three of us worked literally non-stop, right? I don't think we barely slept 2-3 hours a night for those 2 weeks, but we got the deal done. So that's what I mean about teamwork, and it's all about winning, right? And each one of you have to have the real passion to win more than anybody else. So there I was, and this world of aviation is a great place, because it's a small little world, the whole world of aviation. There are about 165 airlines in the world. The world of aviation is controlled by 200 people in the world. The 160 airlines, there are 4 big manufacturers, and there are about 2 or 3 big guys who control the world of financing in the world of aviation. You have GE that owns in its fleet about 2,000 planes, about 10% of the world's planes. And then you had a company called ILFC that was owned by AIG. You guys know AIG? Yes. So AIG, this company called ILFC, was 800 planes, but unfortunately in this downturn, the Lehman Brothers, that doesn't exist anymore. That company fell away on the wayside. And then the third largest lessor was about 400 planes. So that's the world of aircraft financing. So GE very much the big kahuna in the room that finances planes. So I did that for a long time, and then these guys decided to send me different parts of the world, and then finally in 2005 they decided to tell me to go to Dubai, and then they said, why don't you go to Singapore? And then I said, listen, I want to go back home, because I always wanted to come back home. The only issue was I didn't know what I was going to do when I came back home. So they said, why don't you start an office of ours back in India? So I came back home and I started GCAS in India for a little while and helped most of these airlines that you see in the skies, helped them all start up. I met all the promoters that you see of all these airlines, literally when they were paper airlines, right? So I walked into a small little room with, from Captain Gopi to SpiceJet to Indigo, and I saw all these guys on this little piece of paper with just a plan, that they wanted to start an airline. So I helped a lot of these start their airlines. I'll never forget when Captain Gopi from Deccan first came to meet me. He says, I'm an ex-army guy. I said, Captain Cook, I don't know who you are, so can you tell me a little bit? And he says, I'm an ex-army guy. I left the army before they threw me out. And then I started some silicone farming down in Karnataka. I did that for a few years. I saved some money, and then I started the entry motorcycle dealership. I saved a little money up there, and then I bought a second-hand helicopter because I knew how to fly helicopters. And now I'm here, and I want to start an airline. I said, Captain Gopi, how do I go to the board of GE and tell the story, right? That here's this guy who's gone from army to farming to helicopter to motorcycle dealership to wanting to start an airline. But again, it comes back to the fact that he was so passionate in what he was going to do that I actually went to the board and made a case for giving him his first 4 planes. So I helped all these guys start up and start all these airlines, etc. And I was having a great time in India. I was having a fabulous time in India because all these guys who were promoters became more like personal friends, right? They were not really customers, they became personal friends. So here's another lesson you guys can learn. If any of you guys ever become salesmen, right? The day I'd call you a good salesman is when you stop becoming a customer-supplier relationship or when you become an advisor to your customer. So I used to have these crazy conversations with people like, Vijay Mali and Kingfisher. Vijay would call me up and say, TP, should I buy the A350 or should I buy the 787? And I said, Vijay, buy the 787, blah, blah, blah. This is the logic of buying the 787. And the next day he'd go and buy the 350. That's fine, he's the boss, it's his airline, so he can do what he wants. And then a few days later he'd call me up again and he'd say, TP, should I buy the 787 or should I buy the A380? And again, I try to explain to him why the 787 is a better aircraft because of these reasons. The other aircraft is also a good aircraft, but what you need is the 787, it's the 777. And again, the next few days he goes and buys the A380. So then I thought to myself that obviously, he doesn't really care for my thing, but at least I was happy that, I was a little pissed off actually the first few days, to be frank, that here's this guy, why does he keep calling me up for advice? He does his own little thing, but at least I felt happy that at least he thinks of me to get my advice before he makes these decisions. So my job was getting along really easy, right? So I'd have all these guys who were starting all these airlines in India that you see right now. They'd call me up and they said, you need another 10 planes. And I said, yeah, sure. I can give you another 10 planes. And then they'd call up all my competitors from around the world and they'd get all their quotes. And then they call me up and they say, this is the best deal I have. Can you match it? And you'll have the deal. So I was cruising. I was cruising along my career and all that stuff, putting in assets into India. I did $1 billion worth of financing in 1 year. Things were really looking good. Until one day, right, and now here's where my second story starts. Until one day, I'm on the plane with the vice chairman of GE, right? Nice fancy corporate jet, right, flying around. I quite like the corporate jet because it has 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It's like US One, what do you call it, Air One or whatever? Air One, right? So it's sort of like Air Force One, right? This room, dining room, this room, that room. So there I was, right, flying around with the vice chairman of GE. And he says to me, TP, I want you to think about running GE Capital in India, right? His name was Dave Calhoun, right? And Dave Calhoun spent some years in his career as the CEO of GE Aircraft Engines. So he knew the world of aviation, that little club out there, right? Everybody knows everybody around the world, right? Nice parties. So I told Dave, I said, Dave, listen, you know the thing, right? None of us ever leave aviation. Right? It's sort of like you have those petrol heads, so we were like, it's in your blood, right? Once you get in the world of aviation, nobody ever gets out of it. So he tells me, he says, listen, when you think about it, I need you to go and run GE Capital in India. So I said, yeah, sure, Dave, I'll think about it, right? Wait till the chairman of GE said, yeah, sure, I'll think about it. The plane gets to Delhi, and I get off the plane, and I'm thinking, should I take the offer or not? Now, the reason why I didn't take the offer, when I was thinking twice about it, was the fact that GE Capital was going through a very unique time in this country. Right? This was back in 06 or 07 time frame. All the big investment banks from around the world were coming into India, Morgan, Lehman, Goldman, blah, blah, blah. And we became a great poaching ground for all the big banks. So they were poaching all our people, one. Two, it was going through a period of turmoil where GE Capital had 1 or 2 CEOs come and go, so there was a lot of turmoil, and the business was really hurting. So he said, I want you to go run the business. And I said, I'm not sure. So I come out and I left the plane and I'm driving back, in the car, and half an hour later he called me up. So I thought about it. Hey, I just left playing half an hour ago. I haven't called up my wife. Right? What do you want me to do? Give me some time. She said, listen, you're going to make a decision. Wait, think about it. I picked up my phone, called up my wife, and I said, what should I do? Right? And I literally thought to myself, I said, if the vice chairman of GE is asking you to do something, you only have 3 choices in life. Right? Either you do what he says, right? 2, you say thanks but no thanks, and then, you might as well stay in that same job for the rest of your life, right? Or the third option is you leave the company, right? There's really not too many other options, I think. I don't know if any of you have any other bright ideas. So I thought really hard, and literally 2 hours later he called me up again, and we thought about it. I'm like, Dave, slow down, let me think about it. So then I finally took the job. So there I am in a new business. Right. I don't know much about the big world of GE Capital because, I don't know if you know, they're the biggest financiers of power plants in the world. They're the biggest financiers of GE Equity, which provides equity. They, all these little 26 bubbles finances one kind of an asset, from cars to ships to just name the asset. Buildings are the biggest, they own the largest portfolio of real estate in the world. So they just finance any asset that you can see in life, they finance it. So here I am in this business, and it was hell. Right? I went through 6 months of hell. I used to go to work every morning, and every day, literally every day, 1 or 2 guys would say, "Did can I come and talk to you?" And they'd come into my office. I said, "Yeah, what can I do?" He said, "I'm leaving." So I said, "Why are you leaving?" He said, "Because I've got a better offer." So I said, banks were throwing doubling their pay and tripling their pay, and I said, "Well, what do I do?" Right? It's virtually impossible for me to match what you're getting, so carry on. And it became worse and worse and worse. And I'm thinking to myself, why the hell did I take this job? Because it was hell. Right? How do you run a business when you don't know who's in, who's out, people are moving, right? Our volumes were going down and net income was going down. And I'm in this crazy job, and I'm thinking to myself, I shouldn't have done this. Right? And to be very frank, I actually went home one night and I was on the verge of tears. I told my wife, "Get me out of here. I don't know what the hell I'm doing out here, but this is terrible." So finally, a few months into the job, I decided I can't run this business. So I called my top 20 guys in the business, right? And I put them into this room like this, right? And I just told them, I said, "Guys, listen, whoever wants to go, go. But I can't run a business without knowing who's in and who's out. So either you're with me in trying to take up the challenge of fixing the business, or you guys might as well carry on, and I'll help you find a job." Right? Then I'll make it. Have you ever seen the movie The Godfather?
Yes.
No? Have you ever seen that scene where The Godfather, Robert De Niro? Was it Robert De Niro?
No, that was Marlon Brando.
I felt like The Godfather out there waiting to see whose hand is going to go up. And then I thought I'll just take my bat and I'll go, wah! I'll see now we see who else put his hands up. Right? But nobody did. And I sometimes looking back think that was a turning point. But I told these guys, listen, this is the time when you stand out of the crowd. And not everybody has the threshold of taking so much pain. I don't get it, right? We all want to call me equal. It's a lot of pain, but if you want to take the pain, this is the time to stand up. So the team of us, about 15, 20 of us, worked like crazy over the next 6 months. We recruited about 300 people. And over the next year, we actually tripled our volumes and then got the business back to profitability again. So here you go, lesson number 2, right? Always take the job that nobody else wants. Because if everybody wants to take the easy job, then you don't stand out of the crowd. Right? Otherwise, that's the easy road to winning. You've always got to be the guy who's willing to take the risk and willing to take the job that nobody else wants. And then it's all about inspiring and motivating the people around you to make sure you get to achieve what you really have to do. So then I'll move on to my last story, and that's enough for me then speaking, and I'll answer any questions you have. So then things were just again beginning to move nicely and all that stuff. Enjoyed myself. And then I get a call from the guy who ran who was the president of Apollo G International, one day saying, my predecessor was a guy called Scott Bain, who was the CEO of GE in India for about 14 years. And he had just retired and they were looking for somebody to replace him. And they said, TP would like me to do this job. So I thought, wow, that's great, but I'm enjoying what I'm being to do, I'm really liking it. I've just been through a lot of pain, and this is the good times now starting, and now you're again yanking me out. He says, no, TP, we'd like you to do this. And Jeff Immelt, who was the CEO of GE, had spoken to his friends, with Mr. Tata and a few other people, his friends, and they decided their wisdom that it's time to have an Indian to run the business. So there I am, just when I was again beginning to enjoy what I was beginning to do, I got pulled out of that business to go run GE in India. Right? And I tell a lot of people that I consider myself sincerely fortunate to have got that job. Because I can say this to you, there are 16,000 other people in this country that GE has, but I can guarantee you that at least over 100 people in that company could have done the job as well, if not even better than me. Right? Because that's the way GE grows. And that's the strength of these large corporations, because here I have my boss at that time, the guy called Nani Bukali. He comes to India and he's, that's the day I'm sort of ordained or whatever, informed officially that you got this job. We're having this nice breakfast in the Moria Hotel. I won't forget, big fancy suite. We're having breakfast and he says, congratulations, thanks Nani. He says, now that you've got the job, I want you to think about two things. And I said, what? He said, I need you to tell me 5 guys who can take your job tomorrow in India within the company. Now I want you to find 5 guys outside the company who can take your job tomorrow. I said, Nani, you just told me that I got this job, let me just enjoy it at least for 2 minutes. But that's how GE grows. GE knows that at any point in time, they always had a list of 5 guys who were being nurtured to take my job, and 5 guys who kept on track outside the company who could have taken my job at any point in time. But that's how we were trained to grow, that you would never get promoted until you had people to take your job. So there I am. I had the most unbelievable experience in that job. Like I said, I was extremely fortunate because I got to visiting virtually every GE factory in the world. Right, so from energy to oil and gas, water, aviation, rail, healthcare, transportation, inspection technologies, so the whole world of GE infrastructure, which includes all these businesses. So GE makes all the technologies in energy, etc. The whole world of GE Capital, the whole media world, so CNBC, MSNBC, and all the Universal Studio movies. So that was the portfolio I was given to run. So got to see a lot of these factories around the world, and what helped me a lot was to understand technology. While visiting all these factories. So GE was doing, for example, the Reliance Jarnagar facility. GE provided all the technology to that. Reliance's East-West gas pipeline, we provide the technology. Some of the technology that goes on the ground in the K6 that goes and actually does the deep sea drilling. All the turbines that go to the power plant. So it was a great learning experience for me to actually see all this technology being manufactured across the world. The second thing was that I spent a lot of time with all these R&D folks. GE has about 5,500 PhDs and scientists and engineers doing pure research out here in Bangalore and Hyderabad. And then the main research center is in upstate New York. The second center in Munich. I sometimes take the center of Munich just to irritate the Siemens guys, because Siemens is headquartered in Munich and they're right across the road. You see a big logo, it reminds the Siemens guys that if you have a bad day at work, just come across. Right? So that's where we work. And they're a very, very big center in Shanghai as well. So I spend a lot of time with a lot of these scientists trying to understand what technologies can make a difference in our country. Because, I think that's the benefit of these big countries that they can do. The third thing that I spent a lot of time doing was interacting with government. Right? Because as you must be learning right now in your class, a lot of what we do in the infrastructure space is all about policy, especially clean energy and the nuclear deal. A lot of these things, it's all about policy, and therefore I ended up spending a lot of time with government trying to make sure that we have the right policy framework for all the investments we're going to make. So again, things were going really, really well. Enjoyed it, met a lot of interesting people. Right, like I said, I was just very, very fortunate. I must have been lucky to have met 50 of the Fortune 100 CEOs, numbers of heads of state. And it was a crazy world. It was a really funny kind of a world I was living in. flying around the world with these CEOs and meeting all these people and trying to make a difference in this country. And then, finally, I decided that things were getting too good. And I used to have this big struggle with the GE system, right? Because I used to travel around the country a lot. And, I used to go down and meet a lot of these chief ministers in all these states. And while I'd go out there and show off about all the technology we have in healthcare and energy and oil and gas, etc., people would turn around and immediately just give me the basics. They go power chahiye, pani chahiye, right? Healthcare chahiye. And therefore, I would take what I would learn from the market and go back to Delhi and say, guys, listen, it's less about the technology, it's more about the solution. So why don't we as a company that have all the technology, right? So everything that goes into a hospital, GE makes, right? But GE doesn't provide healthcare delivery, right? GE makes the engine that goes on the plane, but we don't run the airline. So my point to them was, we have all the technology, we have all the capital, why don't we provide the solution? And I have kind of had the debate, but I think GE was very clear. The one, it did not want to compete with its customers. And two, they're a technology company. And what we want to focus on was technology. So after much debate, I started thinking to myself, why don't I do what GE does not want to do and cannot do? I didn't have the guts, right? I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I didn't have the guts. Times are really good, right? You're living this crazy bubble, you're having a fantastic life, you're having a fantastic job. So then one day, it was funny actually because I was traveling around the US and I suddenly see an email, right? Dear TP, congratulations, and if you have some time to spare, I'd love to meet you. I know you're really busy, but I'd love to have a cup of coffee. Thanks, Jack. Jack. Great. Jack. Right? So there's only one Jack, I know what that Jack was, and I thought, oh, that can't be true, right? Jack's involved in anything else. Right? So I'm like, Jack, can you spare some time? I wrote back, I said, Jack, you tell me anytime I'll be there. So Jack was, oh boy, I'll be only to have that beat, we'll have that coffee. So Jack came to India and, we were supposed to have coffee and then he blew me off because he went to Agra and his wife said, it's such a beautiful place, why do you want to go waste your time eating TP? We had this incredible holiday in Agra. So anyway, he came back and I met Jack at a big social event. I didn't get time to talk, but he was all apologetic for ditching me for that coffee, but he says, we must still catch up. So it just happened that about a month later or so, I was going to the US and I said, Jack, I'd love to catch up for that cup of coffee, and immediately he responded, 30 seconds, come home and have lunch with me. So I go to Boston and I go to Jack's house to have lunch, and he said, I'm very sorry, my wife's away and all that, it's only you and me for lunch. I said, great. So we sit down there and had lunch with him for 2 hours. And it's just fascinating talking to him because, it's not very often that you get a chance to spend 2 hours with this guy who, one can learn a lot from. So I talked to Jack and all that stuff, and we spent, about an hour and a half into the conversation. He says, what do you want to do in life? So I figured it's some sort of a trick question, right? We're still working at GE, and the ex-boss was asking me, what do you want to do in life? So I said, the usual good answer, right? Jack, I love GE, another 15 years. My son will go to GE. He looks at me and he says, what do you want to do in life? Right? So I said, maybe it's time to tell the truth. So I said, Jack, listen, I love what I do. I really love what I do. But I want to give back to the country. And this is the challenge I have. Like I said to you, I said, I'm trying to convince the GE system that it's time for us to provide these solutions, but GE doesn't want to go there. And this is what I want to do is give back. I said, I've been fortunate that I've had the most incredible experience, right? But the question is, can I take all this experience and give back to the country? So he hears me out, so what do you want to do? So I gave him to teach people what I want to do, right? But I want to go out there and create a new IPP. So he said, why are you doing it? So I hummed and hawed and, all that stuff, right? And then he points to me like this and he says, you're scared to lose your job. That's it. So what are you scared about? Say you're scared nobody can get you a job. Then he goes ballistic. You think I can get you a job? I'm like, Jack, calm down, right? You're 80 years old now. Right? But then I left that lunch, right? And I thought to myself, the honest truth was that I was scared of losing my job. And that was the truth. But think about it, right? Here I was flying around at all these fancy things, doing all these deals and meeting heads of state. Right? I didn't want to give it up. And I was scared. Right? But then I just thought that I've given 15 years of my life to one company. It's the only company I've ever worked for in my life. I'm not sure I know of too many other friends who work for 15 years in one company. Usually all my friends are in the 6th or 7th company by now. Right? And I thought very long and hard, and I said, if I don't do it now, I never will. And that's when I decided that, so I went to Jeff and Elton, and I had a heart-to-heart chat with them, and, I said, Jeff, this is what I'm going to do. Because I want to give back. And I appreciate everything you guys have done for me, but I want to give back. So I pulled the plug about a year ago, and got a few good guys who I'd worked with me, right? Some of the best project finance and project management, but the execution, some of the best engineering talent that I'd ever seen. And we said, let's go give it a swing, right? So here we are, right? A group of us who hope to create one of the largest clean energy IPPs in this country. Right? Taking all the experience we have about making turbines and financing turbines and putting together power plants for everybody else in this country, we decided to give it a swing. So that's my last story, guys. At the end of the day, you've got to follow your heart. Right? You've got to end up doing what you really like to do. Right? And I'd say do it. Because if you follow your heart and you really do what you want to do, I guarantee you're going to be successful in everything you do. So those are my 3 stories, and hopefully you learned something about it. But I'd just like to raise just one last thing, is that all of you in this room are really fortunate, right? Think about it. You're sitting in one of the best schools around here. You're learning about things a lot of people would love to learn. All of you have some most incredible backgrounds, and guarantee most of you are smarter than I am, right? All of you have engineering degrees, and now with this you're going to be even more powerful with knowledge than anybody else. But also just remember that there's still 400 million people in this country who still don't have, will never even have a clean glass of water the next few years, next 10 years, who knows. There's still going to be millions and millions of people in this country who don't have access to electricity. I don't think they get access to electricity in another 10 years. Right? The government says 400 million, I don't know, 200, 400, 300 is a huge number. It's the size of the United States. And therefore, it's all your responsibility and my responsibility to give back. So as you go about in your careers, and I guarantee you all of you are going to be very, very successful in everything you do, right? Just figure out a way to give back as well. Because that's what we guys need to do. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions all of you have, and I'm here for some time, so I'll open it up to any questions. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Sir, as we know that you are very closely associated with GE for the past 14 to 15 years. And after you left the company, you were approached by many energy giants for them to be associated with. Sir, it's like, as you clearly said, there is a bridge between the what market needs and what large company offers. Sir, how do you manage to raise fund for starting up your own venture?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. I think short answer is not easy. Right? It is very, very difficult. Right? I think, like I said, when you say, at the end of the day, people want to see your vision, right? And where you want to do and what you're going to do, right? At the end of the day, they need to trust you in what you're going to do. But again, like I tell people, if you have the right experience, right, and you have the right vision, there's plenty of capital in the world. Guys, listen, if anybody tells you there's not enough capital, they're fooling you. There is plenty of capital. Plenty of capital, believe me. Right? And I'm a firm believer that capital is a shortage of good ideas that capital chases. So if you get the right experience, right, you put yourself in the guy who gets money shoes, right? What do you look at, right? And I tell people you can have the best business plan on the earth, but at the end of the day, it all boils down to who you are. And I'll just say one other thing, right? And that's where your own value system comes in. Because sometimes I feel very sad when I see all what's happening in this country, the number of people who got burned, it's very, very sad. But what I'll just say this to you is that if you have the right experience, you have the right vision of what you want to achieve, capital will find you, right? And then you can convince them that why they should give you the money, not me or not him, right? And that's what you need to do.
So,
Yeah.
when you left the company, you wanted to start your own business. What if another company said that you could do that, but with them? Would you have opted to, associate yourself with that company, or would you have still gone your own way?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened. There were a lot of companies who said, why don't we team up and do things together and things like that. Down the road, that still might happen, right? And I might still team up with some folks as I grow. But I just felt in the initial stages it's best I don't. Because, the whole idea of doing an entrepreneurial venture was to get away from the big corporate world, to be able to move, to be able to do things quickly. So that was the whole purpose of me stepping out of the whole corporate world. And at the end of the day, I might have to still team up with them because of, in order to build scale rapidly. But at this point in time, I just figure when you're starting out, not to do it at this point in time. We have teamed up with a few other guys for strategic purposes because either they've got better supply chain or they've got better pricing on supply chain. But at this point in time, I just figured I don't want to be teaming up with some of the big corporate houses at this point in time and do it ourselves. I tell people, that I think we should deal a lot with, large corporations like Reliance, Torrent, etc. And I really do admire all these people. Right? Think about it. A lot of them didn't come to fancy good schools like you. They don't have any, good education. A lot of them are dropouts. Well, Steve Jobs was a dropout, right? Maybe we should think about going to school. Bill Gates was a dropout. So a lot of these guys dropped out. But yet, on the other hand, he created incredible value. He created unbelievable value. And I always think that, why is that the case, right? Because guys like you are the people who should be creating value, not those guys. They don't have education, right? So I sort of feel that if we can get the best brains in the world together, who have a passion to win, right, are hungry to win, then I believe that we should create, by just pure logic, more value than the guys who don't. So, when I just say this to you is the fact that, I tell people a story. I'd gone for a course recently to Harvard, and these two young guys tracked me down. Right, I don't know, they sent an email to somebody, and finally get these emails from these two young guys. And they said, we believe you're at Cambridge, can we come and meet you? I said, yeah, sure. And both DCs, right? So I met the first guy. The guy says, I went to do my electrical engineering at Berkeley. My GPA was 4.140. I'm doing my master's in energy at MIT. My GPA is 5.150. He said, for what? Right? And the second guy said, I went to Worcester Polytech, WPI. I did some other engineering. My GPA was 3.954, and I'm now at MIT doing my master's in the energy program. My GPA is 495.5. I said, both you guys are geeks. You guys are way too smart for me. So what can I do for you? They said, we want to come and work with you. I said, guys, I think you're talking to the wrong company, right? Both you guys sit in America. You guys are going to do very, very well. You're going to make lots of money. I can't afford super duper brains like you, so you just sit out here and I'll speak to you later, right? And if I can be of any help, please give me a call, right? And I thought I shoot them away, right? But one of those guys, right, kept sending me emails and emails, and I want to come back. And I said, dude, his name was Tandir. I said, Tandir, I don't think you're understanding me. I can't afford guys like you. You guys are too smart and all that stuff. So then he went to the dean of MIT. And he told the dean of MIT, listen, this is what I want to do. Right? And this is the problem I have. And he got MIT to pay for him to come down to India to spend the whole summer with us out there. Right? And that's the passion I saw. And I can't believe the kind of value he created for this company in 2 months. It's unbelievable. Right? And he's going and spreading the word back at MIT saying, listen guys, when we graduate, we'd love to go back, come back and work with you. But that's what I really believe, that if we can continue to get the best talent around the world to come together to do something good, why can't we do what these other guys have done? There's no reason why we can't do it. Right? And that's what I'd suggest to all of you, is that, listen, you guys are lucky to be out here, and you guys have an opportunity to go and do something big in life that not many other people will get this opportunity. Yeah. Yeah.
So from being a part of G Capital, helping finance projects, how was it being on the other side of the table when you went in for your entrepreneurial venture? And also, as you said, that starting your own business, being an entrepreneur, was actually, I think all of us feel that way, that it is risky, and all of us have fears inside us of being an entrepreneur, getting into that field. So how do you overcome that fear to be where you are right now?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I think at the end of the day, I'll say a few points. One is that fear is always going to exist, right? But I would say to all of you that, listen, if you ever decide to become an entrepreneur, you shouldn't have any fear. What do you have to lose, right? The worst that can happen is you go get another job in a big company, right? And what I also say this to you, and I think about it, that if tomorrow I was back at GE and I had to recruit two people, and one of the guys said that I'm a failed entrepreneur, and the other guy said I'm just the usual guy, I take the failed entrepreneur. Because what you learn and you show is something that I truly value, having gone through it myself. So what I would say is you shouldn't have any fear because you have nothing to lose. I had a lot to lose, and I'll be frank with you, because I was leading this wacko life. You know, it was just an unbelievable life, and I had a lot to lose. But more than that, I'll tell you what I had the fear of. It wasn't about losing things. It was more about the fear of failure. Right? What do people say? This VP who was CEO, look where he is, he failed. And then I thought, so what? Sure, I have a probability I can fail, sure. Right? So tomorrow at 20s I'll have 50 friends out here who will read the paper that I failed. Right? Sure, I can fail. And that's what I was scared about. But then I thought to myself, would I rather be scared of failing or regret I never tried? And I came to the conclusion that I'd rather fail, but at least think to myself that I tried. Right? So that's what I would say, is that if any of you have an inkling to be an entrepreneur, give it a shot. You have nothing to lose. Now, about adjusting and all that stuff, I think it's more in your mind, right? Because I joke with all the guys in my office right now, because we have this little bit of a competition at work right now where we all compete on who can stay at the cheapest hotel, right? So I'm winning that competition by a mile, right? So I've now found a hotel in downtown Bangalore for 1,000 rupees. The only thing I did not know was for 1,000 rupees you don't get a towel and a soap even. Right? Anyway, but you know, but that's the fun of it, right? So here I have gone from these fancy big super presidential suites, and you know, you pay 20, 25,000 a night, you pay 1,000 a night. But that's what it's all about. So as long as you in your mind have the ability to say, listen, this is what it's all going to be about, you've got to live with it, right? So that's what we're doing, is the fact that all of us are living this new life, it's a very, very different life. We don't have all the fancy perks of living the corporate life. So I'm sure a lot of my colleagues at SG are still enjoying it, and good for them, right? But that's a choice to make, right? That this is the life you want to lead and you want to do something good, right? But when I say this to you, is the fact that what amazes me, like I said, told you that story about the mirror, is the fact that if you really want to do it, you'll be amazed how many other people want to do the same thing. It amazes me, right? Initially, I thought I was the only idiot on the planet. Now I find a lot of other idiots, entrepreneurs, trying to do crazy stuff. So that's what I would tell all of you, is the fact that if you have even the slightest iota of entrepreneurship or risk-taking in your system, do it. Absolutely do it. You know, when I go to California, I think to myself, you know, I went to, there's a road near Stanford University called Sand Hill Road. You know Sand Hill Road, this guy used to be out there. Sand Hill Road. And I don't know if I ever told you the story one, but I went up there the first time I went up there. And I'd gone for a few other meetings, I was wearing a suit and tie, right? So I walked in there, and all these young guys walking around in t-shirts, Stanford, NYU, blah, blah, jeans, sneakers. I was like, what am I doing? Should I take my tie off, take my thing off? Because it was weird. But what amazed me about that is the fact that age doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. Now look around there, I was the only idiot old guy standing around. Because all these young guys coming out of school and they're all pitching for ideas out there and they get a few, if they like the idea, they got some money and off they went. Why can't we create that culture of entrepreneurship in our country where guys like you can get out there, go meet some sort of, you know, an angel investor or some of these VCs who can give you some money to go do something on your own. And I feel sad there are not that many around. And the few there are always want to go and do the big things now. So they all want to do the big sexy things. I feel bad that there are not that many guys who are willing to take that thing. You know, Facebook wouldn't have happened if there weren't somebody willing to back it. Google wouldn't have happened. And why can't we create that spirit of entrepreneurship in our country? And I hope we can. I sincerely hope we can. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience over the last 1 year and what you guys are doing at the
Yeah, sure. So basically what we are a clean energy IPP, and the two areas that we're focusing on is wind and solar, right? We looked at all the technologies that exist in the clean energy space, partly, and we discounted all of them, partly because at GE we made the technologies. So in biomass we make some of the best turbines or engines that go into biomass projects. You know, GE makes the windmills, they make the solar panels, they make the gas turbines, they make the steam turbines, they make the inverters. So we make virtually everything that goes in that whole spectrum of what we call energy or power gen. But when we started going through all of them, we did a lot of research on biomass and biogas, but we found that, and I actually went around the countryside, going to a lot of places where they have it, but supply chain was a big issue, right? So it was very difficult to scale up the biomass, biogas stuff. We looked at acquiring a whole bunch of companies in the hydro space, right? And we looked a lot at that, and the economics look really good, and it's a good business model. The execution risk was just too high for us at this point in time because the gestation for big hydro is quite a long time. And what we found in our country is longer the gestation, the higher the execution risk. In our country, I think that's the number one risk. So there's another company, who's done a fabulous job with the board chap after 5 years. He hadn't got a single project off the ground. And the sad part in life is they're wonderful people, it's a great team, but you know, at the end of the day, the only thing that counts is having put out any assets, and he hasn't, and it's a tough one. So that's what we discounted that. I didn't want to get coal because I'm clean. We looked at gas, as in natural gas, and we're very excited about natural gas. GE makes some of the best. GE dominates the gas business, so whether it's big gas turbines, small gas turbines, small gas turbines, GE dominates that space. And we looked at that space very, very seriously, and I'm very excited about distributed gas, so smaller gas-based power plants. These smaller gas-based power plants are very, very efficient. So unlike simple cycle, large steam machines, the efficiencies are over 38 to 42%. These smaller gas engines can provide efficiencies on a CHP solution, a Trigen solution, of close to 70 to 80%. So very highly efficient. You know, you can provide in this building, I need very little space. I don't need 2,000-3,000 of acres of land like big, coal-based power plants. This, I just need 1 acre of land for a megawatt, I might need 5 acres for a 100 megawatt plant, and that's really it. So they're very easy to do, but then the problem we ran into is this whole politicalization of whatever of the whole gas area. So there's totally a lack of clarity on how to get gas, which gas, what price. So the sad story is that we don't know where that's going. So we, and we did a lot of this analysis while we were at GE as well. So there are the two areas in the clean energy space that I'm most excited about are wind and solar. Now, one of the few things I did prior to leaving GE was we put up a wind turbine factory in India. GE is the largest, between them and Vestas, they fight for number one and number two for wind turbines. So I think from our perspective, wind is the most scalable, and therefore our target is to put about 1 gigawatt of wind over the next 4 or 5 years. To actually develop and own and operate these power plants across the country on the wind side. On the solar side, I spent a lot of time with some of the best scientists in the world on the solar front. And I used to ask them this question before I left GE, that is, when would solar's time come? And it was very, very interesting the kind of news I used to get. So some scientists would say it's 2 years, some guys say 10 years, some guys say 5 years. there was absolutely no consistency on when solar time would come in terms of cost competitive with other forms of energy. So I think I was more or less convinced by all those engineers that its time hasn't come yet, its time is yet to come. What I've seen is in the last 1 year, a lot of things have changed in the whole solar space. Over the last year, at Davos, I got to meet a lot of the CEOs of these big solar module manufacturers, and 3 of the 4 are Chinese. And each one of them is adding about a gigawatt of capacity, each one of them, right? So there's huge amount of capacity coming into the market. And because of the problem with Spain and Italy and Germany, etc., they are slowing down in their demand. And as a result, prices of panels have come down unbelievably in the last 1 year. I don't think anybody a year ago had ever thought that we'd see such a decline in prices. 2, efficiencies are going up. So, on the normal PV side, Sunpower is getting about 20%, 90-20 on the commercial application, the labs at 23.8%. On the thin film side, as GE used to focus on CAD, thin film efficiencies are now touching 12-13%, so efficiencies are going up. And the third data point for people that is, for guys who track large corporations like GE is that large corporations like GE are always the last of the party because they're so big and they're so, I wouldn't say they're so slow, but they can afford to wait for someone else to make the mistake before they get into the market. And when they get in the market, they buy the top 1 or 2 guys and they become the biggest, right? So GE is finding out they're on top of massive, one of the largest solar panel manufacturing plants in the United States. So that's a big sign that its time is approaching or has more or less come, because I can't tell you the last 5 years the amount of debate I had internally at GE about getting into this in a very big way, and people say, GE pipe down, its time hasn't come. So it looks like they've also got it. So those are the 2 big focus areas for us right now. On the solar side, my view is its time still hasn't come, right? So what we're doing is really getting our feet wet. We will put some capacity on the ground, but I think the real scale up is still going to be a couple of years away. It's still relative to all the other forms of energy, very, very expensive, relative. But so as a result, we will, in fact, today we put a big bid. Right, so today was the deadline for the bid, so my team is there today, so we put in the bid, so let's see where that goes. So we do a few projects, but relatively small relative to the big things in doing. So that's really what we're doing, is really creating clean energy platform. And if we can provide power to a few million people, that's what we're really excited. Guys, I might have to leave, so I'll take the last 1 or 2 questions if you don't mind. Then I'll have to leave. Yeah.
Talking about the hybrid power system like solar and wind, how do you see the future of solar and wind both the because it gives the stability of the grid?
Yeah.
Because daytime solar is energy,
Correct.
nighttime you can get the wind in the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if suppose that somebody comes for grid, when it is investing in the grid, so give the 24/7 power.
No, absolutely.
So how do you see the future of that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, what I think the better solution is going to be wind and gas, right? Because at the end of the day, what it does is it provides us stability for wind and gas, because gas can be fed anytime. When the wind starts going on, the gas can kick in, and then you have stable power. I think that's going to be the more realistic hybrid solution rather than wind and solar. On the wind and solar side, the reason why it made sense is because if you're buying a few hundred acres of land, then wherever you don't have, you're not using the land, it makes sense to put up some solar panels out there. But I don't think in the longer term, I think the hybrid solution on a gas wind perspective is going to be more realistic. GE done one project recently on a gas wind hybrid, and I think it's working quite well. That's where I really see the big opportunity. Now, gas and solar will happen just for the use of space, but I think from a real technology perspective, I think that's where the real value is going to be. I might be wrong, but that's just my view.
Yeah. Small piece of information. Are you still looking for some prospectus in hydro?
In hydro? Always looking, yeah, always looking. The only thing that I've sort of decided is the fact that we want to do projects until it's really cooked, right? So what I don't want to take is a lot of the execution risk. When I say execution risk, I don't want to buy a project when it's just the drawing board yet. Have you look at a project where there's a PPA there, land approvals there, environmental approvals are done, you have more, the basics of the deal are cooked, and then happy to step in and take the construction risk, that I can take. But what I've learned the hard way is the fact that if I go today to bid for a PPA and do all these other things, it's not worth our time. Because if you look at the value chain in this whole space, Our focus is right at the end, right? We are a utility company. We want to own and operate assets. That's why I don't want to, I'd rather, all over the world, the other people who actually the development part, the EPC part, right? That's not where I'd rather get some other EPC to do the actual EPC. Yeah, we work with these guys, but our value is to be at the ownership angle, to actually own these assets and operate these assets. I'll take one last question and then I'll wrap up if anybody has. Yeah.
So, I'm Ravi Singh. So what does it take to reduce the distance between that thing and this thing?
Reduce the distance.
What does it take to reduce the distance between that thing and this thing?
In terms of doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I told you.
Apart from hard work and following our heart. One single thing.
That's my solution, is work hard for you. Thanks very much, and I wish all of you all the best in your careers, and
Thank you.
hope all of you all will be really successful as well. I'm sure you will. Thanks very much.
Thank you.